welcome to this talk called From Spring Boot 2 to Spring Boot 3. I've subtitled it with Java 21 and Jakarta EE. It's a little bit different from what's in the agenda, but it's the same talk, I can assure you. My name is Ivar Grimstad. I'm the Jakarta EE developer advocate at Eclipse Foundation. And you may wonder, why am I doing a Spring talk? But I hope we can figure that out during the show. So these are my social coordinates. If you want to reach out to me during or after the talk, I'll respond if I can. Before I go into the Spring part, I just want to take a little background of Jakarta EE, and you'll see why Jakarta EE is important for Spring. So the current release of Jakarta EE is Jakarta EE 10, and it was released in September last year, so it's about a year and a month old. And Jakarta EE is like Spring is a framework. Jakarta EE is about specifications, and I'll go through the difference there. So Jakarta EE is about specifications, and we usually have a specification document, a PDF or HTML file that is humanly readable, that defines the requirements for the specification. Then there is an API in Maven Central, which is what you're using as application developers, and also a test compatibility kit, or TCK, that tests that an implementation implements the requirements of the specification and implements the API. And when a implementation passes the TCK, it is a compatible implementation. And we may have multiple compatible implementations for a specification, but we need at least one open source implementation in order to ratify a final specification. And Jakarta EE 10 is a lot of specifications. These are all the specifications that are part of the Jakarta EE 10 platform. And all the blue ones were updated for 10 from 9. So we've done a refinement of the platform all over the place. Some of them were not updated. They are the gray ones. It doesn't mean that they're not important or anything. It's just that they were stable as they were, and will be updated probably in later releases, some of them at least. And we also have a subset of the platform, which is called the Jakarta EE 10 web profile. And this is a set of specifications targeting more traditional web applications. And if we peel off even more of them, we have the brand new Jakarta EE 10 core profile, which is something new we introduced in Jakarta EE 10. The web profile came in Java EE 6, so it's been around for a long time, and now we introduced a new profile for the first time since then. And these are specifications that are targeting microservices or headless services, if you like. And there is also a new specification down at the bottom, or it's a subset of CDI, but that's a CDI Lite that removes the dynamic stuff of CDI and all the runtime resolvement stuff, so we can resolve things at build time, so we can compile to native with Jakarta EE as well. Jakarta EE 10 is based on Java SE 11. We tested on 11 and 17, so the implementations pass on either 11 or 17 or both. But the API levels are on 11, so you can use 11 if you are using Jakarta EE 10. But you can use 17 if you like. And that's because we tested on 17 as well. So how is this relevant to Spring? And to find the relevance to Spring, we actually have to back one release, and that's the Jakarta EE 9. And that's where we did the namespace change from javax to Jakarta. And as you will see in this talk, that this namespace change kind of rippled through the entire industry, and is what you're probably working with right now. How many of you are Spring developers? Yeah, good, because you're the one I want to talk to. And how many of you have done the upgrade from 2 to 3? Yeah, some of you, and so, how many are going to? Yeah, so you come to the right place. So Spring builds on top of Jakarta EE. And this may come as a surprise to somebody, but when you do the upgrade to Spring Boot 3, you will see that it actually does, and you will see it in the imports. And that is the namespace change you will see. And that your imports change from javax to Jakarta, if there are the Jakarta specifications. And if we look at a couple of these specifications to see how they're relevant to Spring, like Jakarta Persistent, how many are using Jakarta Persistence? Okay. So how many of you are using Hibernate ORM? Okay, if I tell you Hibernate ORM is an implementation of Jakarta Persistence, so who's using Jakarta Persistence? Yeah, everybody who's using Hibernate are using Jakarta Persistence. And in Jakarta 10, we added UIDs as basic Java types in Jakarta Persistence. So now you can do this in Spring as well. So you can use UIDs directly without doing any conversion back and forth. The Hibernate will do it for you. If we look at bean validation, which in Jakarta 10 will be, in Jakarta 11 will be renamed to just Jakarta validation, but it's still the same specification. So bean validation, how many are using bean validation? Okay, you see where this is going. How many are using a Hibernate validator? Some validation in Spring. If you're doing that, it's a Hibernate validator, it's an implementation of Jakarta bean validation. Servlet 6. So how is this relevant to Spring? Well, if you're using Spring Boot and you're using it right out of the box, using the Spring initializer, you get Apache Tomcat as your runtime. And Tomcat is Servlet 6, or Servlet 5, used to be. So, and Jetty is another you can switch to. You can switch to Undertow, you can switch to Open Liberty, you can switch to any of the web containers out there. But the common denominator for all of them is that they implement Servlet. So if you're a Spring developer, you're actually using Servlet quite extensively. Let's look at some demos. And the first scenario is just a slide demo. So let's say you're creating a new Spring app. And you're using the Spring initializer, and you're creating this Spring app using Spring Boot 3, but packages as a war. So it's not a common way of doing it, but you can, right? You can choose the jar or war packaging. So let's say you do the war packaging, and you want to deploy it to the Tomcat 9 that somebody installed in a server a couple of years ago. Do you think this will work? It will actually deploy and install just fine because it's a valid web application, but nothing will happen because it won't discover the servlet. Because Tomcat 9 looks for a javax servlet, and in Spring Boot 3, it's a Jakarta servlet. So what you need to do there is actually to upgrade your Tomcat to Tomcat 10. Then you're on the Jakarta namespace. So another scenario, and this is more relevant for you. You're upgrading a Spring app. So you have a Spring Boot 2 application, and you want to upgrade it to Spring Boot 3. And that's where we're at, right? So this is where the namespace change come in. So let's look at some of this code. So I have a very simple Spring Boot application here that I've created through the Spring initializer. It's on 2.7.8. It's not the latest version of 2, I know. It's 2.7.11 or something, or 14. But it's kind of where we're at. And this one it's on Java 17. I have just some validation, some web stuff. I have a couple of dependencies, an in-memory database. And other than that, it's just a very simple Spring Boot application. It just boots the application. And it has a REST endpoint, a post where I can post in a user. And it will take the email from this user and create an account and store it in the database. And I have a get where I can list all the users. So it's a super simple application. And I'll just run it quickly here. So if I start it, and then I just want to query the users, get the users. You can see it's no users here yet because I haven't added any yet. So if I want to post a user here, add an email address, and let's call it duke@dukes.com. I'm a backend developer, so red is good, right? So that is not an error. It's HB 200, and if I do check it, I have a user in the database. If I do a invalid email like only Duke, it will say bad request because it's not a valid email, and I still have only the one here, and that is taken care of by the @valid annotation. So are you using @valid in Spring? Yeah, that's bean validation. So if you're using that, you're using bean validation. You see? So I have this application. So what I'm going to do is upgrade this one to 3, and that's easy. That should be just to take this one and go to the latest version. And I'm not sure, is it 3.1? I think it's 3.14 or something. 3.15. I haven't tested that, so that's cool. Let's go to 3.15 and build this one. So when I now reload this POM, you'll see I should get some. It's resolving dependencies. It's working. Is it network? We're getting there. Yeah. So I get compilation errors. And it's the bin validation that does it for me. But this is simple. So it's only one, so I can do this manually. I'll show some tooling afterwards. But in this case, it's just to replace javax with Jakarta. So this is super easy. You can do manually, you can do it with tooling or anything. I'll show tools. So it's compiling. Let's just stop it and package it again and see how it goes. And oh, it failed. And why did it fail? Well, because we're good software developers. We're using tests. And I have a super cool test here that I got from the initializer. It just loads the context. And it fails. Even though it compiles, it fails. So what I could do, obviously I could just uncomment the test and try again. But let's nest a little here. So you can see I'm using here the account repository, but I don't see the account repository anywhere. So that obviously comes from one of my dependencies. So the situation I have done here, I was in the IDE. I could have used the IDE to do the namespace change. I'll show that later. To do the IntelliJ has this Java EE to Jakarta EE that will just take the namespace and change it for you. I did it manually. You can use Open Rewrite, which is a tool that has recipes for all this kind of stuff. There are recipes for Jakarta that you can use for your Spring applications, or you can do the Spring recipes, or you can create your own company internal if you have some stuff, your frameworks, whatever, and do all the Open Rewrite stuff. It's open source, it's out there, it's a pretty cool project. It will do this work for you. But I'm doing it manually, so what I've done so far is I updated the Spring version in my POM XML, and updated the Jakarta EE version. I didn't have any Jakarta stuff in the POM, so I skipped 2 here. And I fixed the imports, and I compiled it, and it wouldn't pass the tests. So what I actually have here is not a simple Spring app. I have some dependencies. And who have dependencies in their applications? Yeah, so that's where the stuff comes in with this migration. So what I have here is a Spring with 2 application with a dependency where the account repository is. And what I have to do is move this dependency over to the Jakarta namespace as well. So let's just investigate here. So I'm injecting the account repository, and I'm getting it from somewhere, and I can just hover over it, and you can see it comes from the Dukes dep. And that's the Dukes dependency. And I have the source code for the Dukes dependency here. And we can look at it. It has the account class and the account repository. So here's where my persistent stuff is. Sometimes we divide things in different jars and things. Sometimes for a good reason, and sometimes just because we can. But we have this one, and we have a Duke dependency. And I see I haven't really done my homework to prepare this demo, but I'll see if I can. I'll just revert the stuff, so I'll reset it. Let's go here and just check. See if this works. Yeah. So what I have here in the Duke dependency is I have a. It's a version 1.0 of my Duke dependency. This is on Spring 2.7 as well. And it has some Jakarta persistence and Jakarta validation stuff. So I have some Jakarta dependencies in this one as well. So what I'm going to do here is take this one and also upgrade this one to 3.1.5. And while I do that, I also need to pay attention to these Jakarta dependencies. And these you can find on the Jakarta webpage. That version 2 is for Jakarta EE 8. So we need to go on the 9 version at least. We can go to 10. So I'll bump this one to 302. And the Jakarta persistence, I'll also bump that one to, I'll go to 310, yeah, that's good. So I bump the Spring dependencies and the Jakarta dependencies, and now I should expect to have some compilation errors in this one when I reload the POM. So my account class now fails because I'm using Jakarta persistent. It's all Hibernate, I'm using Spring data, but it's using Hibernate underneath, and that's Jakarta data. So I need to fix all of this. And this is where you have to get a little dirty. As Spring developers, we need to do Java EE stuff. Yeah, you can do that. I mean, we're in southern Sweden. We're not in Stockholm, so we can get dirty here. And we can take this. You can do the whole project or just this one. This will take all the namespace change for you. Fix it. And it will omit the ones that aren't affected by the namespace change, because there are still javax stuff in the JDK. So this one will take just the stuff you need. So I can just do this refactoring, and it changes it for me. So now I've done that. The next thing I have to do is to re-release my dependency, so I can use this one in my Spring Boot application. So I'll just call this one 2.0. You could do a classifier, Jakarta EE or something, depends on how you want to do it in your company. I'll just go and verify here in the Maven repository. I have the Duke dependency and the Duke library here. So in the Duke's dependency, I'll actually have a 2 version since I already built it. But what I'm going to do is to build the Duke dependency, Maven clean install. So I have it in my local Maven repository. And now I can use it from my Spring Boot application. Okay, I switch from Duke dependency 1.0 to 2.0. I'll rebuild this one. And now you'll see it builds. Because now I load these dependencies correctly. So let's try and run this one. So I start it up, and I'll do the same thing as I did. First, I'll just look at the users. It's in memory, so it's empty now. And then I'll just post the dukes.com address. It works fine. It lists the user. Let's try the faulty email. And, oh, it went fine. So now I have crap in my database. So now the test passes, everything loads, everything looks fine, but it doesn't work. So what is actually going on here? Well, I had the source code for Duke dependency, so that was easy. So what I did was just to take this one from 1.0 to 2.0. So what I did was to update the Spring version, update the Jakarta EE versions, fix the imports, and repeat for all the dependencies that I had the source codes for. But what I actually have is some external dependencies that I don't have the source code for. And there may be many reasons for why you don't have that. It could be that you created it back in the days, you committed it into Subversion, and you forgot the login to Subversion, or don't know how to use Subversion anymore. Or it's a library you bought, or it's an open source library that is not maintained anymore. There can be many reasons why you don't have the source code for something. So that's the situation we have now. And what we're going to do is to move this one over to Spring Boot 3 as well. So if you remember the POM file, I have this Duke lib folder as well. And the thing here in this @valid annotation I'm using here in the when I'm posting the user in, you'll see the user comes from this Duke's lib. So there is some validation going on here on the email, and that's a validation that doesn't kick in, because that validation is on the javax namespace, and Spring Boot 3 is on Jakarta. So because a Hibernate validator for Jakarta is integrated in Spring Boot. So what I have to do here, I don't have the source code, so I can't fix it. So luckily, there are some tools I can use for this. So the situation is I don't have the source for my duclib. And I can use a tool called transformation. And this, there are a couple of tools out there. Two of them are freely available open source. It's Eclipse Transformer and the Apache Tomcat migration tool. And this will transform the bytecode for you. So it will take it and move it from the javax to the Jakarta namespace. You can have it as a Maven plugin, incorporate it in your CI, and do it on the fly every time, or you can do it manually, running a client tooling, as I'll show here today. So I have this duclib that I don't have control over. So let's go to my where am I? So I'll just ls duclib. So you see I have a version 1.0 of duclib here. So I'll copy this over to a local folder just for convenience and do the transformation here. So I'll copy the duclib 1.0 jar over here. So now I have it in my local folder. And then from the Eclipse Transformer, from the GitHub repository, I can download the jar file for the CLI. So I've done that because I don't trust conference Wi-Fi. So I downloaded this to my local folder, and I can just run this jar file with java-jar. So I don't use the Maven plugin for this demo, I just use the jar. So I've downloaded it to a tools folder. So I have the Eclipse Transformer CLI, jar version 0.50 is the latest. And I'll just have the input, the duclib jar that I copied from my repository. So I'll just run the transformer here. And what you see here is that I have a duclib jar and an output duclib jar. So let's look at these and compare them. So I have these two files, and I'll just compare them. And you can see the only difference here is in the duclib, I have the javax validation, but here it's transformed in the output file to the Jakarta. So it does the bytecode and transforms it for me. So the next thing I need to do is make this available for me for my application to use. So I'll just do the Maven install file. So I'm doing the Maven install file. I'm taking the output file from the transformer and just deploy it to my local next Maven repository with a version 2.0 and the same group ID artifacts. So I've downloaded it here, and now you can see I have version 2.0 in my local repository as well. And that means that I can take my application and upgrade it from using 1.0 to 2.0, which is the new dependency on the Jakarta namespace. And I can repackage it and run it. So now I'm running it with the new dependencies. I'll just do this. Query the users. There are no users. Fine. I'll do the dux.com. It's there. Fine. Let's do the one with a wrong email, and I get a bad request. And now the validation actually kicks in, because now I have the Jakarta validation, the Jakarta email validation. So to do this, use the transformer and deploy it. And whether you use version or classifiers, that's up to you. So the steps are as follows. You update the Spring application, Spring version. You update the Jakarta versions if you have any. Fix the imports. Repeat for dependencies. And then transform libraries if necessary. So the transformation step, that's kind of the hassle. And you don't want to do that forever, but you may have to do it. If you can get hold of the source code, that's better. But if you can't get hold of the source code, you can transform them. An interesting option is that if you switch Tomcat with Open Liberty, not only will you get increased performance with your Spring Boot application, but Open Liberty has this transformer built in. So you will get it automatically when you deploy the application. So there are some options there that you don't have to do it manually. There may also be some additional migration steps. And that is, if you have any properties especially for the Jakarta technologies such as Hibernate, if you have some caching strategy set or something, that could be a property called javax.caching.strategy. That property has to be renamed from javax caching property to Jakarta caching property. So every property prefixed with javax has to be prefixed with Jakarta. You may also have some XML namespaces, not that usual in Spring Boot applications, but if you do have a web XML or something, or some persistent XML maybe, the namespace in the schemas have changed. So they have to be removed from the old JCP namespaces to the Jakarta namespaces. And also, you may build these properties or classes or do reflection and do dynamic stuff. If you do that, you need to kind of figure out where you do it and replace javax with Jakarta. So 21, how many are on 21? Not yet. You should. It's been out for a couple of months. So if I want to go 21, I can actually I've been running on 21 all the time. So this works fine on 21. But if I wanted to use some 21 features in this application, first I have to just upgrade the version to 21, and I'm actually on the bleeding edge. So I want to have some preview features in 21 as well. So I'll also enable the preview features in the compiler, and you can do that in a compiler plugin with the enable preview flag. But the Spring Boot application, in order for that one to run and with the preview features, you also have to fix the Surefire plugin. So you have to do these two plugins if you want to use preview features in your Spring Boot application. Maybe not for production, but it's fun to do anyway. So if I now wanted to do use some Java 21 features, preview features, I can do some logging with string templates. So you can see here, I'm just logging and doing string concatenation. If I want to use string templates here, which is a preview feature in 21, let's just log it here. I can use this str thingy that comes with the string templates, and now I can take the account ID like this and just put it in like a template language. So it's not very useful for logging like this, but yeah, it can be if you have a lot of parameters and you want to format things and use the string multi-line things as well. So it is, at least it is a preview feature. So if I just package this one, let's go to the Spring Boot application. I'll stop it, do the package, and if I run this one, I need to also enable the preview features for Java. So when I run it, so enable preview. So now I have a preview enabled, and if I now do I can query the users, nothing happening. If I do send the user in, you can see the log message here where it logs the ID. It now logs using string templates as well. So it is possible. That was the Java 21 part of this. So I hope by showing that Jakarta EE, there's a lot of that going on when you do the migration, that the namespace change is there and it has implication on all the transitive dependencies. You may discover something very long down in your dependency tree that you have to fix. That kind of erases the awareness that Jakarta EE is very important for Spring, because Spring builds on top of Jakarta EE. So it may be wise to follow what's going on with Jakarta EE, because that will come your way when Spring adapts it. So Jakarta EE 11 is scheduled to be released sometimes around summer next year. And I guess the next version of Spring will pick it up at the end of the year or maybe next year. So sooner or later, you will get the Jakarta EE 11 APIs out there. We're also trying to establish the release cadence of being 6 to 9 months after the latest LTS of Java. So Java 21 came out in September, so around June, July, that's 9 months after, we'll try to release Jakarta EE. And that's the release cadence we will try to be on. So every second year, we will release a new version of Jakarta EE. We're adding Jakarta data. It's not that big of a deal for Spring developers because you're familiar with Spring data. Jakarta data is standardized in a repository pattern exactly as Spring data does. So it's the same functionality there. So if you want to kind of explore the persistence mechanism in Jakarta EE, it would be very similar to Spring. So it's a very easy way to go back and forth. The Spring folks are also participating in this specification. So it may be one that is picked up by Spring afterwards if they don't want to, if they want to do the specification or even implement this one. We're doing Jakarta NoSQL, which is the same thing as Jakarta persistence is for relational databases, but for NoSQL databases. So it standardizes the integration with NoSQL databases. It's not a specification that will be a part of Jakarta 11. It will still be a standalone specification, but sooner or later, I guess this will make it into the platform. And it will also be available to use if for example, Hibernate picks it up or some other of the persistent providers, you will be able to use it directly in Spring as well. We're doing gRPC within Jakarta EE. This is a very, in the startup phase specification, so it's not going to be in 11, probably not in 12 either. But it's something that we're working on, and it may get going. What's interesting to know is that Jakarta 11 will be based on Java 21. So if you remember, Jakarta 10 is based on Java 11. So we go from 11 to 21 in one big leap. So when Spring picks up the Jakarta 11 APIs, Spring is also on 21. So if you're not on 21 yet, that should be a motivation to go, because when you do the next major update of Spring from Spring Boot 3 to 4, you probably have to go to 21. So to sum up, Jakarta 10 has a lot of specifications. Some of them are more relevant than others to Spring. I talked about 3 of them here today. Jakarta 11 is common. These are the blue ones are the ones that will be updated. So you see validation will be updated for Spring Boot, for Jakarta 11. Persistence are getting a lot of goodies for developers you can also use directly in Spring. Servlet is going from 6 to 6.1. Probably not that big of impact for Spring, but still it's an update. And we're adding Jakarta data. So I hope this kind of clarified a little bit about how Jakarta EE is relevant to Spring, because in very high degree, Spring builds on top of Jakarta EE APIs. And if nothing else convinced you, then this namespace change will, because that's kind of the impact the builds on thing has. And to repeat the steps for an upgrade, Spring versions, Jakarta versions, fix imports, repeat for dependencies, that's kind of what you do. Most of this can be automated with open rewrite. And then transform libraries if necessary. If you can avoid it, that's good, but it's there. It's a technology that's available. And rename any bootstrapping stuff with javax. So it's all about javax goes away to Jakarta, but carefully. If you want to know more about Jakarta EE, you can go to jakarta.ee. We also have a starter. So you can go to start.jakarta.ee and generate a project just as you would do with the Spring initializer. So if you want to just test it out and see how it works, you can go there and try it out. They have versions for 8, 9, and 10. And as soon as 11 is out, we will have a Jakarta 11 there as well. There are a blog aggregator for Jakarta EE related stuff. It's also Spring related stuff. If you have a tech blog and want to get promoted there, go to jakartablogs.ee and sign up. It's just to send a pull request or an issue to GitHub, and we can add your blog. My blog is there, and I'll also have my own domain. I write weekly, #Jakarta EE. So if you want to know what's going on, check that out. The demo code for this application is on my GitHub, and it's called Jakarta EE Spring. If you want to learn even more about Jakarta EE, you can go to LinkedIn Learning and check out the Jakarta EE overview course that is there. And if you're interested in just regular open source, I have a session in 15 minutes in Room Deploy up there. So after this talk, please join me there. And with that, I say thank you for listening, and we have time for questions. Any questions? I have some Nice Jakarta EE socks. Three first questions. Come on, don't be shy. I would ask, can I have a pair of socks? Yes. I think it's available in IntelliJ now without any plugins or anything. Sorry? If there are any cool tools in the Eclipse IDE regarding Jakarta EE, I think they could need some help to get that done properly. But it still works there. We have a project at Eclipse for language server. So an Eclipse IDE uses that language server, and that supports some of the Jakarta EE APIs to get it up there. So you come here for, oh, okay, I can try. Last talk, yes? How performant is the Eclipse transformer? You see, it was very fast, but this was a small one. I think it moves very fast. So I don't think performance isn't the issue there. So it just adds a build step, and you don't need to do it every time. You just do it once. You earn a pair of socks. Okay, thank you very much for listening, and enjoy the rest of the conference.